Welcome back, baseball fans, to another eliminating video. What you're looking at is last year's Los Angeles Dodgers stats from a year ago. Their season ended in the same manner. They got to the divisional round of the playoffs. They got swept by the Mets, 4 straight. So they lost to the Mets. The number of games is going to be a little different. They finished 27 and 24 because they were 27 and 20 before being swept there. And last year, these stats aren't particularly fantastic. They scored 190 runs and they gave up 219. So they had some blowout losses in here and won some close games. You could kind of say last year they overachieved a bit. 267 average, 407 ERA. Willie Davis has a nice year, as he does do often with that 71 card. Power-wise, Grabarkowitz had 8 homer of the 30. But only a 258. Stolen bases, Davis had 7, but not a whole lot of stolen bases either around there. There's some doubles. Davis had 14 doubles. Parker had 13 doubles. He had 26 RBIs by Parker and Bill Russell, of all people. A couple guys who didn't continue, Bubba Morton, Hawk Taylor, and Tommy Reynolds, all platoon players, are gone. Buckner at 285 with a 319 cards. That's slight overachievement, plus no home run. So that's the offense. Pitching is sort of a strange mixed bag. You see, Messersmith had 10 wins with a 3.52 ERA. Claudio Steen was 3 and 10 with a 4.80 ERA and started the year as the #1 pitcher. Of course, he would be bumped down in the rotation. Tommy John didn't help a lot either. Don Sutton was 6 and 4 as a #3 starter with an ordinary kind of card. And Brewer and Mickelson split closer duties. Mickelson a little bit better than Brewer. And that's a year ago, and overall, nothing really special, really. They got predictably dumped by the Mets, who won the World Series a year ago. So now let's transition to what happened in the offseason and how they come back. And now, hitting got a little bit better. Pitching got a whole lot better. And they got the same way. Their season ended in the divisional round against the Mets. But look at the one-loss record. They're now 27 and 19. So overall, they're +5 in the overall win category. They scored 197 runs, but they only gave up 165 runs. So that's a good sign. Offensively, Wes Parker had a big year, was hitting 400 at the All-Star break. Bill Buckner had a nice year, and he has not hit a home run yet in 2 seasons with the Dodgers. Oh boy. That doesn't portend well if they want to make him a first baseman, right? Bill Russell overachieved with a 326. Sizemore had a decent year. Willie Davis's batting average went down. This is the Garvey card we talked about that really shouldn't be in the league, his 71 card, when he's just a AAA player, really. But he 269 and 8 homer and 78 at-bats. So he got really lucky with it and helped the Dodgers win some games. Billy Grabarkowitz just had 2 kind of ordinary years with a card we think is special. The 386 on-base percentage is nice, but only a 262 average. It was Willie Crawford, who they picked up with his 73 card, was just crappy, 202. And your platoon shortstop is Frank Baker and Hal Lanier, and that's awful. And Bill Russell could move to shortstop, but he doesn't field well there either. They do have 26 stolen bases, so Willie Davis was more successful, and they took more chances this year. But the change was the pitching. It was magnificent. 307 ERA. They lowered their ERA by a run. This is where the Dodgers' ERA should be, around 307. It was below 3 until Game 7 of the League Championship Series when Messersmith gave up a ton of earned runs. Speaking of the ace, Jim Brewer and Don Sutton, the ace and closer, were on this roster a year ago, and their cards could have continued. There's 1970 cards that they had. Dodgers decided to say, you know what, let's retire their 70 cards prematurely and get their 72 cards because they're amazing, so we can get extra mileage out of them. Did it work? It absolutely worked. Don Sutton got a Cy Young year with a .59 ERA. It was as low as 131 at one point. 10 complete games, 130 innings. Jim Brewer, 1 earned run. You see, he gave up 6 runs. Only 1 was earned. And Andy Messersmith and Tommy John had okay years. Claude Osteen, again, had a terrible year. Pete Mickelson really failed in the bullpen. It was really Jim Brewer and Wasilewski who held up their own. But overall, when you look at the Dodgers in a bigger lens, you see they are progressing into that team of the 70s that would be very successful. They don't have Lopes yet. They don't have Ron Say yet, or Reggie Smith even. They're not going to get Reggie Smith for a bit because he'll go to St. Louis after leaving Boston. They're in good hands, of course. And now it's time to take a look at the LA Dodgers and see what do they do with those 70 cards once we pull them out. I mean, you know, this is a decade team we're looking at here, so year in and year out they should be getting into the playoffs and getting into the divisional round or further. And the Mets, you know, I think they just have the Dodger number. It was 4-3, but the Dodgers have still not been able to figure out how to win a game in Shea Stadium if they meet again next year. So again, you're going to see some important Dodger names in here and deciding what their futures are going to be for the 8 guys leaving. But when we build back the team for next year, you know, those investments in Sutton and Jim Brewer are going to continue for this team. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. They're going to bring back 7 hitters and 5 pitchers, which is the nominal amount, so that you can draft evenly into pitching and hitting. And we have a catcher. And this is what I meant. They had to bring Ferguson up in 71 because his future years when he's better were taken by Sutton and Brewer. Same with Garvey. They had to bring up Garvey. They could have used the 73 card. That year was taken, so they had to bring up the 71 year. He's only a third baseman. And it's not very good, right? The good news is they could do the same thing that they did with Brewer and Sutton and say, throw this Garvey card away and improve it to the MVP card of 74. That's almost a given they're going to do that. So presently you have Garvey at DH, Ferguson catching, Buckner presently at first. Again, he hasn't hit a home run in 2 years. He has power, and that's all he has on his card, and he only hit 5 of them. But a .319 hitter's a .319 hitter. You want him on the team, right? Bill Russell, you see he's bad defensively short, awesome in the outfield. You could wait till 73 or 74. It's just not, I mean, with Russell, you're never really going to get a tremendous offensive card. You're going to get a 270, 268 hitter most of the time. So you got a steady outfield. You got Crawford, Davis, and Russell in the outfield. Hallinier's your utility infielder. It's kind of an ordinary offense, and the specialty will be the pitching, of course. Actually, they're going to have to address half of the rotation. Sutton, of course, comes back with Tommy John, but the other 2 spots are vacant presently. And you have 3 relievers, and Wasilewski wasn't even a Dodger. He was just a free agent. Did a nice job for him. Moeller's not very good. He's a long man. He's a Dodger long man. And of course, Brewer's outstanding, as you imagine there. So it's about making the right choices in the next draft. Let's take a look at those 8 1970 players and see who's keeping, who's being waived, who's being put in retirement. Okay, baseball fans, let's see what the Dodgers do with their 8 players. It's a mixed bag, foundational players and role players, and so we'll have to go through this process. First player is Frank Baker, who wasn't actually a Dodger, and there are 2 of them. One was an outfielder for the Indians. The other one, of course, is the infielder for the Orioles and Yankees. And I think this is the infielder, Frank Baker. And in 71, he has a card. Well, I don't know. We don't know if he has a card. He's out of the Mendoza line the rest of this time, so he's not a keeper. he's either on retirement or on the waiver list. To be on the waiver list, he has to make the Strat-O-Matic has to make the roster sheet. So we'll go to 71 roster sheets, and is it a split? No, it's full-time Yankee 71. So is he on the Yankees as a part-time player to qualify for waivers? Frank Baker probably shouldn't be, right? And it is not. So let's retire him. If his card is made in 73 or 74 for Baltimore, so he could come out of retirement to do that if needed. Next player is Tom Haller. A nice little left-handed power-hitting catcher. His throwing arm wasn't very good in 70. Played from 61 to 72. Was a Giant. Has a Giant hat on here. Hallinier also came over from the Giants to the Dodgers in our league. So he has these all-star seasons there, you see. In 70, this is a nice card we just used. 286, 815 OPS. Frankly, it's the stats. I mean, probably should have bet it up in the lineup more. Dodgers had a good lineup though. These are great stats for a left-handed platoon catcher who's 33 years old. 71. You're still going to make this card, I believe. Yeah, 234 at bats. That's got to be made, and does have a 712. So his numbers drop a little bit, but he's going to be in the league. Should the Dodgers keep him? Well, let's start him out as a keeper. Let's just make sure he exists for the Dodgers in 72, and he does. Let's make him a keeper now. Again, a left-handed hitting catcher with power. I mean, I'm going to go out of my way to keep a guy, even if his stats aren't particularly, you're not going to get Johnny Bench, folks. So, I mean, everybody else in baseball just has to live with that. And so Haller is going to be in the league. Right now, he's going to be a Dodger keeper. Now it's up to the Dodgers to find 4 guys better than Haller. Then they can put him on waivers. That would be the strategy. Next player, Billy Grabarkowitz. I hope I don't have to spell all of this. G-R-A-B. Good. My goodness. 69 to 75. His 70 year is really fantastic. We used this card for 4 years. They made a 69 card, interestingly, as a 092 hitter. And then we're thinking, oh, this guy must be a bum. And then in 1970 happens, and it's like, what is this? Here's a guy who's a 2 at second, a 2 at third, a 3 at short. Again, look, everything you would want is there. 17 homers, 8 triples, 20 doubles, 19 stolen bases, 95 walks, a little high on the strikeouts, we understand, for this era. But an 852 OPS and an all-star. And you're like, man, this guy is a 24-year-old. He's ready to start his long Dodger career. But after that, it just doesn't really happen. And he plays through to 75, but he ends up going to the Angels, Phillies, Cubs, and A's. Never finds a home. So this guy's going on waivers. Dodgers aren't going to take... They got Ron Say coming up soon anyway to play third base. Problem with Grabarkowitz, can he get waivers in 71 with 90 plate appearances? Let's take a peek and see if he can with the Dodgers. Here are your Dodger infielders. Again, they gave third base to Garvey that year. They had also brought in Dick Allen, had Wes Parker, so they had the corners pretty, and Buckner. They had the corners busy. We'll just say they were at least busy. Grabarkowitz is an extra player in 71. That is good news. That means that he can continue playing baseball. He'll go on waivers. Now, going on waivers means that he'll be considered with a 72 card, but people might take a chance with a 73 or 74 card. So he goes on waivers. So next player is Wes Parker. And Wes had an all-star year. Great player. 64 to 72, Wes Parker. Switch hitter. Entire time as a Dodger. He'll have a full season in 71 and 72. He will come back. And what you're doing here, you are creating a situation with Steve Garvey and Wes Parker with a 4-year carryover league. You've got 2 quality starting first basemen who are Gold Glove caliber first base types on the same team. You could create a situation where Garvey, as the heir apparent, gets the job. But you got a Gold Glove. Think about this. You got 2 more Gold Gloves coming to Wes Parker in 71 and 72. And you're ready to ship them out just because you have Garvey? This is going to be a big decision the Dodgers have to make, making one of the guys a DH. Plus you have Buckner, and you got Willie Crawford in the outfield. It's like too many players at one position group, and I know they're all lifetime Dodgers, but this is where we could change history a bit in the carryover league and dangle a Gold Glove winning, switch hitting first baseman who went to the All-Star game 2 of the last 3 years, put him out there in a trade offer, and I guarantee the phones are going to ring. My goodness. So that could be a really fun thing. He's going to be one of the most talked about names in this off season. Wes Parker, because you know Garvey's not going anywhere. He's just getting started. An expansion team would take Parker. And I like to say, like, in the West, somewhere near West Coast. Well, California has Jim Spencer, the California Angels, so he doesn't go across town to them because Jim Spencer's a 1 first baseman. Could you imagine the Oakland A's? Oh my goodness, folks. I just had a brainstorm. Gosh, the Oakland A's getting Wes Parker as a Gold Glove first baseman on that dynasty Oakland team. That's a scary notion. But boy, that would be a wild trade in the offseason. Where else could he go? Maybe someplace out west. Obviously, they don't want him to end up on like the Giants, Padres, or Astros. Astros have a need at first base, but he ain't going to end up there. They should send him to the American League, like the way Tommy A.G., the Mets sent Tommy A.G. to the American League. Send him to the Toronto Blue Jays. Get him out of the National League so he doesn't come back and haunt you. Yeah. But yeah, that's going to be a fun off season. It's going to be one of the topics I got to figure out. What to do with Wes Parker. Exclamation points. Okay. But he's denoted as a keeper presently. So, the 5th name is Ted Sizemore. Now he'll know he'll get traded. He gets traded, believe it or not, for Dick Allen. But that doesn't happen here. You see Grady and Scott Sizemore as well. Ted Sizemore, Rookie of the Year in 69. We have his 70 card retiring with a 306 average. He goes immediately to the Cardinals. And, yeah, he's a good performer. I mean, again, you got to make a trade here. You can't put a guy this good on waivers. Doesn't make sense. Waivers are for guys just trying to get a job in the league. This guy's a starter. So he's starting for the Dodgers, but then the Dodgers are saying, nah, it's time to bring up Davey Lopes and Ron Say. Unless they want to let him play shortstop with a 71 card. I'm thinking the Cardinals are going to make the deal. So we're going to denote him as a keeper for now. And hopefully we're going to get more keepers and force the Dodgers into making the trade that way. So that's going to be a trade. I'm only going to put 1 exclamation point, not as many. So Wes Parker is a 4-alarm trade alert, whereas Sizemore is a 1-alarm trade alert. Yeah, but yeah, these guys, the Dodgers are going to, and this is what you got to do, is that when you make trades like this, you're improving the present players you have. So maybe you move on from Joe Moeller and Gary Wasilewski. You package them in a trade. You don't need those guys anymore. Maybe you, get Hal Lanier out of there too. Trade him, throw him in the deal. Just unload your bench players in these trades and just improve your team that way. All right, we got 3 pitchers. The first one is Messersmith. And he'll play through to 79. We got him away from the Angels a little sooner. You see, he's still an Angel through 72. But we made a trade where Bill Singer and Andrew Messersmith swapped teams. We use the 70 card, but he actually will get even better. So that's great news for the Dodgers. He's a definite keeper. And when it comes to hierarchy, right now, Messersmith rises to the top of a hierarchy. I would go him 1, and with Parker and Sizemore, if you're unable to make a trade, 2, 3, and Haller 4. But he's a definite keeper, and he's not being traded. Next player is Claude Steen. This is pretty interesting. Claude's had a couple of ordinary years recently. Pitches a long career. You know, he pitches to a ripe old age here. And my goodness, this would be another, well, you know, he had the Reds and the Texas and the Senators here, and then the long tenure with the Dodgers. You see there's an out here in 74 with the Astros, Cardinals, and Chi Sox. So you see that he doesn't have to continue for the Dodgers. He wins 20 games in 72. So he, again, is on the keeper list with trade. And this is all good news for the Dodgers. I mean, it's a happy problem to have, right? To have too many guys who are great, because it means that you can trade the weak players in your team, or force your trade destination to take these guys off your roster so you can get better players. So the last pitcher is Pete Mickelson. Pete Mickelson. And he had a great year in 70. And he's still with the Dodgers in 71 and 2. And again, this is a quality enough pitcher to also be a keeper. With a 113 whip in 71, he can be a keeper as well. But obviously, we know the Dodgers cannot keep all these guys. So they are going to be up all night trying to figure this out. They have 6 guys they would love to keep, but they don't have... could you work all these guys in for one more year? Well, if you did that, you're stunting the growth of Steve Garvey by keeping Steve Garvey as a third baseman, taking over for Barkowitz as a bad fielding third baseman while Wes Parker plays first. So you're stunting the growth of the Dodgers that way. Haller can platoon at catch. You know, Sizemore, you're keeping Davey Lopes in the minor leagues when he's ready to start. Another thing you're doing. Pitching wise, that's fine, because these were all good pitchers and they continue being good. So you're not really pushing any future Dodger pitchers out of this equation. Mike Marshall isn't on the Dodgers yet. He's still property of the Expos. And the Expos may elect to trade him elsewhere instead of trading him to the Dodgers. Then we have to value how valuable is Mike Marshall as a relief pitcher in 1974 who pitches 200 innings. How valuable is that in Strat-O-Matic, you know? So, very interesting offseason. The Dodgers are going to be the big player here, figuring this puzzle out. It's a fun puzzle to have, but you have to imagine that the ascension will continue. Back-to-back years in the divisional round getting knocked out by the Mets, but I think the balance of power will start to change with the Dodgers arrow rising. The Mets probably starting to get a little flatter next year. Dodgers will be one of the top 2-3 teams in the National League next year and throughout this decade. So the future's only looking bright for the LA Dodgers. Thanks for checking out this elimination video, and we'll see you next time.